And I know we set that up, Earl, but it sounds like we have our guest, which means Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. You can check him out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL is now joining us here. He's calling games for CBS this year. Ross, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
Before we hop into our topics today, Ross, I did want to ask you about something I was told is literally the best present ever, and that's myfrontpagestory.com. Give us a little background on how we can hook up our good friends with, like we said.
No, I appreciate it. By the way, your set looks awesome. I'm like jealous of you guys. You're talking about wide nine. Like, you guys have it figured out. It's awesome. Jim Schwartz, he was in Philly for a few years. But no, my buddy started this business. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. It's honestly amazing. Like, you talk to one of their writers for 10 minutes about your wife for her birthday or anniversary, or maybe even Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, maybe it's for your mom, I don't know. They write the most unbelievable story. Like, it looks like it's on the cover of the Cleveland Plain Dealer with pictures of her and you or her and the kids. I've just seen it so many times now when they open it up and they see the quotes like, I just never thank her enough for all the little things she's done for me over the years. They cry every time. So highly encourage you and your audience to check out myfrontpagestory.com, because none of us really know what to get our wives or moms for like birthdays or Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. So myfrontpagestory.com. I appreciate that.
Awesome, Ross. We'll get into the Browns and the rest of the NFL in a sec, but I do have a question. I'm a Jersey guy, and I know you played college football at Princeton. You started at defensive line and then as a sophomore transitioned to offensive line, then ended up playing in the NFL as an offensive lineman. A, why Princeton? And then B, how'd you end up going from a defensive lineman to an offensive lineman, and not just that, but defensive lineman to an All-American offensive lineman with the Tigers?
All right, so you guys are going to like the second story. The story of why I went to Princeton is because I was very much a late bloomer. I was like 6'4", 210 as a junior in high school, which is like a quarterback height and weight, playing offensive tackle, defensive end, and I wasn't big enough to get recruited by the big boys on offense and not athletic enough on defense. So I had scholarships to like William & Mary in Delaware, but I thought, gosh, if I can go to Princeton or Harvard because of football, like, are you kidding me? Nobody from my family had ever done anything like that. So those are the only two schools I applied to. Football helped me get into both of them, which is amazing. Ended up going to Princeton. But the better story is how I got moved to offensive line. So as a freshman, I actually started a couple of games as a DN. There was an injury. So I started a couple of games as a DN, probably like 255. Season ends. I go back to my hometown, Reading, Pennsylvania. It's an hour west of Philly. It's probably like, for you guys, it's probably like, think of like Akron, okay, Youngstown, you know, like that type of city, right? So I go back there. Dude, I'm telling you, we got a keg of Yingling every night. And I would go to the diner at 2 a.m. and I would get a ham and cheese omelet, a stack of pancakes, a chocolate milkshake, and a side of Scrapple at 2 a.m. every night after we kicked the keg. I came back to Princeton after Christmas break. I was 284.
Let's go. Let's go.
Wow.
I gained almost 30 pounds during Christmas break, and the coaches were like, what did you do? I was like, had an amazing time, you know, I don't know. Like that. And so what they said to me is, they're like, listen, you'll start either way, D-line, probably D-tackle at that point, or O-line, but if you play offensive line, like, you could really, because, you know, I can move a little bit, so you could really do something special or be something special. So I did it. I didn't really want to, because I liked hearing my name called when I made a tackle or whatever, but I switched to offensive line, and thank God, because I wouldn't have had a prayer in heck of playing in the NFL on the defensive line. So I can attribute my NFL career to Yingling, Scrapple, and a diner.
I love that. I honestly looked up a lot. I couldn't figure out why you made that change. That's even better than I could have imagined anywhere. So thank you.
What is Scrapple?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
So Scrapple is like an Eastern PA thing. It gets into Jersey a little bit. It's delicious. But when they process a pig,
oh no,
they process every aspect of it, right? For ham, for sausage, whatever. The scrapple is whatever's left over.
Oh dear God.
Yeah.
So it's like ear.
Oh God.
Nose.
I'm sorry I asked.
It's whatever's left over.
Yeah.
And guess what? I don't care because it's delicious. But it's not really what you're supposed to eat. But Eastern PA, it's like
it does taste good.
It's like,
is it
sought
better or worse
after.
than a hot dog? Health-wise and taste-wise? Because it kind of sounds like a hot dog.
Okay. Way worse than a hot dog health-wise. And definitely tastes much better than a hot dog.
Wow.
It has like a really cool flavor to it. It's super soft on the inside, but like crisp on the outside. You got to try it, man. You got to try it.
I'll second Ross on this one.
When you're little, they don't tell you what it is because they know you won't eat it if you know what it is. And then by the time you know what it is, you're like, I don't care. I've been eating this since I was 5. It's delicious. Let's do it.
Ross, my doctor just called me, and he said, black people ain't allowed eating that. I'm already got you on high blood pressure. You better stop playing around. Take one now just for listening to that. But it's something I would partake in, but I don't know if I can find it here. Let me ask you this question about the Browns. To me, I don't know. I was sitting there looking around, and I said, man, the Browns look like they could have a season where they just come out like game busters and they surprise a lot of people because they do have talent. Or they can come out and still have a lot of talent and lose the first 3 games and people have a mutiny and we all go crazy. I think it's feast or famine. Is there any in-between in your opinion about where the Browns could be? I think it's either a great season or a disappointing one.
No, I agree with you. And I would put the Browns into a similar category as the Jets this year, which is it's either playoffs and everybody gets contract extensions, everybody's happy, or it's disappointment and they probably clean house, right? I mean, that's the reality of it, which, by the way, is why the Jets made the trade they made. They gave up a lot for potentially only 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. But guess what? If they make the playoffs this year and their GM Joe Douglas and their head coach Robert Saleh get contract extensions, who cares about next year's first round pick? We're rich. We just got $20-30 million contract extensions. And if we get fired, then we really don't care about next year's first round pick. We don't even work for the team anymore. I think there's some similarities there. I just don't envision. And by the way, I think Andrew Berry's really good at his job. I think Stefanski's good. I mean, Stefanski won a road playoff game with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback. I think that's pretty impressive. But back-to-back losing seasons, they make the big move for Deshaun Watson. They got to make it work this year with Deshaun Watson. I don't envision Haslam having the patience to stick with these guys for another year if it doesn't work out with Watson, because then he's 2 years in with 3 years left, and he's going to probably bring somebody else in that can maximize the return on investment they get for the draft picks and money they gave up to get Deshaun.
Kind of along those lines, Ross, I've been known, like I'm the guy in town who carries Kevin's water, apparently. Like I'm a huge Stefanski believer. I think he's great. Having said that, I look at the schedule and think, oh, God, this is setting up for a bye week firing because you've got 4 really hard games and an early bye week. And you've got, I just had it here. The 3 division games, they're home against Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, home to Tennessee, home to Baltimore, and then the bye week. So at what point, am I right or am I crazy that, like, because if you're going to salvage the season, if this goes off the rails early, then you got to make a move early in order to salvage the season before the whole thing unravels on you. Am I crazy in thinking like this whole thing could get blown out at the bye week, or is week 5 too early to panic on something like that? And I know this is sort of a doom and gloom thing, but I'm with you. Like this is a make or break year for the entire organization.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a little too early.
Okay.
I think if anything, the early bye week might help Stefanski. If it was week 7, week 8, then you might have more of a point. But with it being week 5 and the schedule being what it is, I'd be surprised if Haslam did that. I mean, who would he go with then? Bubba Ventrone or
Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz? Like, who would they even put in as the interim head coach? How does that help them? And I tend to agree with you about Stefanski, by the way. I mean, you know, he gets to the playoffs and wins a road playoff game with Baker. Then the next year, I mean, I don't even remember what happened. I called a game the next year when they played the Raiders on like a Tuesday or something. Was it like Nick Mullins was the quarterback?
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah, that was the
for the
COVID.
Browns.
Yeah.
By the way, I had done the Eagles preseason that year, and Nick Mullins was terrible, and he got cut by them. I mean, he was so bad he got cut by the Eagles in the preseason. He's starting a game with like a playoff berth on the line in December. I don't know. I guess it speaks somewhat well of Stefanski that even had him in that position. And then last year, I thought he got Jacoby Brissett to play the best football of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Watson wasn't ready when he came in, and the defense was a disaster. But I think Stefanski's a darn good coach. I'm not carrying his water. If they don't make the playoffs this year, he's probably gone.
Yep.
But I tend to agree with you. I did coach rankings, and I think I had Kevin like 24. And that was like my big takeaway from the rankings was like, wow, there's a lot of good coaches. Because I think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
I think I had Salah 25. Salah probably makes the playoffs this year. You know, I think I had McDermott from the Bills 22, McCarthy from the Cowboys 21. There's a lot more good coaches out there than you realize.
You know, Ross, we were going to talk about this later on in the show, but given the climate of the running back position, you see a lot of really good backs, or at least guys that used to be really good backs, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, a lot of people not getting big contracts. A guy here, Nick Chubb, was, I think, one of the last guys to get a solid extension. And you hear, you know, Andrew Berry talk about him being a superstar. And the question we're asking is, you know, we're asking on the show was whether or not Nick Chubb is the exception to the rule. Are there any exceptions to the rule for any running backs, or is this just a situation where it's just part of the business now, where you're not going to pay a running back moving forward? Or do you see that, you know, certain people are a little different based on what they give you on the field, off the field, and in terms of what they mean to the organization?
Well, listen, the Browns gave him a 3-year extension, right? I think they're pretty happy with that so far. I mean, it's not like a 5 or 6 year deal. It wasn't really crazy money at $12 million a year. And to have him locked up, you know, through 2024, I think they're pretty happy with that. I mean, the next couple of years, they're paying him about $11 million a year. I think they are fine with that. You know, I had J.C. Tretter, the NFLPA president, former Browns center, on my show, the Ross Tucker podcast recently, and we were laughing about this idea that running backs don't matter or don't make a difference. There's no way people that say that have watched a Browns game the last couple of years. You cannot watch a Browns game and tell me that Nick Chubb doesn't matter. You can't watch a Tennessee Titans game and tell me Derrick Henry doesn't make a difference in the outcome of games. And by the way, speaking of coaches, everybody loves Kyle Shanahan. Everybody loves Sean McVay. Both those guys tried to trade for McCaffrey. Both of them. You know, the Niners ultimately got it done, but he's the highest paid running back in the league. And they both gave up draft picks for the right to take on that contract, which I think says a lot about McCaffrey and at least how those guys, really good football minds, feel about the running back position. I think some of these teams regret the deals they gave, right? The Cowboys with Zeke. The problem is running backs get hurt and running backs can fall off a cliff, right? We know that, which is why shorter deals are better. It's why the Giants are trying to go year to year with Saquon, with the franchise tag, and now he signed this new deal. I would just say this. Running backs, I'll tell you what they should do. After their 3rd year, once they're eligible, I think they should hold in during training camp their 4th year. Hold in. Don't give up any fine money. You know, don't let them be able to take $50,000 away a day. report to training camp. You know, you guys know, you're never 100%. Something's bothering you. Say it's bothering you too much to be able to practice. Because here's the thing. The Giants don't want to play games without Saquon Barkley. That's why they did this revised deal with him today. I wouldn't have signed it because I hate training camp. So to skip 45 days of training camp would be amazing. All Saquon had to do was sign the Friday before the first game, and he gets all $10.1 million. And then, by the way, then it's up to the Giants whether or not they play him in that first game. They probably don't. He missed the whole week of practice, and they don't want him to get hurt. So I would have waited longer and said to the Giants, I'm not showing up till the Friday before the first game unless you give me $12 million or unless you agree not to tag me again. I thought Saquon could have and should have driven a harder bargain.
Ross, I know you played offensive line at the highest level. The Browns left tackle, Jed Wills, they picked up his fifth-year option this offseason. He's obviously a guy we've talked about a lot here. Some people aren't the highest on him. Some people think he's just okay, and some people think that the ceiling for him is still there. Where do you fall on the Jed Wills discussion, and can he be the Browns' left tackle of the future that they need him to be, considering how much they're paying Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough position. There's no question. I guess I thought he would improve more than he has. It's probably the best way to describe it. And I don't know if he's been banged up or whatever. You know, I think he's a good player. I thought he had a chance to have a higher ceiling than what he's shown so far. I'm curious to see how he plays this year because he's an integral part. I love their guards, Bitonio and Teller. I really like the way Conklin plays in the run game. At times, I feel like, you know, Jedrick Wills has kind of been a disappointment in some games. But he's still probably top half of the league at left tackle and certainly top 20. And what you really can't have is one of the bottom 10 guys. So that's why they picked up the option. That's why, you know, they'll likely extend him because good enough is better than not good enough at that position.
And that is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, former eater of scrapple, to put on 30 pounds to transition from the D-line.
I got a question for
Oh,
Ross.
wait. Our producer Earl has one question. Sorry, Ross.
Ross, what's up, man? I'm a huge fan of yours. I just got a question.
Thank you, Earl. I love people that are huge fans of me.
I appreciate that. Any chance you can stop by our studio whenever you're in Cleveland for a Browns game?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know if I'm doing any this year. You guys actually play in the preseason at Philly. I'll be calling that game.
Oh, wow.
So, by the way, shout out, because I think that game's a Thursday night, and it'll be on NFL Network. So
Is
if you're
Scrapple
not
on the
in
pregame
Cleveland,
menu?
if you're someone that watches this show but you're not in Cleveland area, you'll be able to see me call that Eagles-Browns game, and I'll barely say anything about the Browns because I get paid by the Eagles. There you go. but they have a couple of joint practices that week I'm going to check out between the Browns and the Eagles. That'll be fun.
Is Scrapple on the meal plan while you're in Philly?
Definitely not. No, they would not let those guys eat that. Although I say this all the time. These guys have no idea, man. The Eagles, cafeteria is so good. I'll tell you right now, I would play for less than the minimum. I'll take half the minimum as long as I get to have all three meals at the Eagles cafeteria every day.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks again,
awesome.
Ross. During those joint practices, if you ever want to come back, open invite. You are more than welcome. Love talking to you. And check him out at Ross Tucker NFL and check him out on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Ross, thanks again.
Appreciate you.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Anytime. Earl, what's next?